Welcome to another video, Rick Miracle, in the series Freemasonry and Satanism, series number 61, part 10. Wow. I don't think I've made any videos with 10 parts, any series. Freemasonry and the handbook here. I've been saying 1962 because that's what it says here, but I look back here and it says copyright 1943. So we went over the apprentice degree, the first degree, the fellow craft degree, the second degree, and the Master Mason degree, the third degree. And as I continue reviewing this book, reading it, I find out there's a fourth degree. There's many more degrees. So I thought I would talk about the degree of Mark Master Mason. Mark Master Mason. I could have just been brief and tried to explain some of this in my videos, but I felt, first of all, the series is called Freemasonry and Satanism, but I felt if I do it the way I'm doing it, I can actually bring the goings-on of the lodge to my videos. So it may seem redundant, boring, but the information as you go through the ritual, which I'm beginning to see, seems like a satanic ritual. And apparently when you have a ritual, at the end of the ritual you seal the ritual. Like when you sign a contract with the devil, you sign it in blood ink to seal the deal that people make with the devil. And there have been people that said that in Hollywood, they've actually had to sign contracts in their blood, and they made a deal with the devil. And we know Hollywood is into the occult, the Kabbalah, meditation, yoga, the higher consciousness trying to connect to the divine. So once you start paying attention to this stuff, and it does start getting redundant, and over, you start to get that aha moment. So in this video, the degree of Master Mark Mason, I'll try to be brief. What's important is I think the second half of, got a bug here, the second half of this video should be the bomb. I've got an exciting topic and an exciting book that's gonna pretty much put everything together that I've been doing, believe it or not. So we're up to 61 series, and some of them are one video. You know, I worked my way through how I wanted to do this. In the beginning, I was making just, every video was number 1, number 2. And then I went to, whenever a book and I did more than one video, it became part 1 and part 2, part 3, etc. So here we are, page 1, I guess, and halfway through this book. Degree of Mark Mason. The term chapter, when used Masonically, is strictly speaking the name applied to a series of degrees in the system of Freemasonry, just as Blue Lodge, Council, and Commandery are the names of other series in the same connection. Series of degrees. In the Blue Lodge series, there are 3 degrees: the Entered Apprentice, Fellow Craft, and Master Mason, and these, in reality, constitute the only true and legitimate Masonry there is. The ceremonies in these degrees were revived from the old initiatory systems of the ancient pagan mysteries while all other degrees, no matter to what series or systems they belong, were manufactured from about the middle to the end of the 18th century. So from 1700 to 1799, these other degrees were manufactured. So 1700s, 18, 19, 20th century. So for hundreds of years, and they say right here, as I just read, revived from the old initiatory systems of the ancient pagan mysteries. I don't think I have to explain paganism, but I will. Basically, it's many gods. Like in mythology, you got Ra, Osiris, Isis, the one they say is the enemy attacking in the Middle East. Moloch, Murdoch, Marduk, Satan, Lucifer. Just, there's a lot of names. Baal. So right there in itself, it tells us that the religion of Masonry is the pagan ancient mysteries, which, if you remember the movie with Moses, where he threw down the two canes, his cane, the large cane, and it turned into a snake, and the Pharaoh's two priests threw down two canes, and Moses' snake ate their two snakes, and then Moses was able to guide the Hebrews out of Egypt, where the waters were parted and they made their way escape. So the people who believed in the one God, the Hebrews, one God, were battling with the Pharaoh's ancient mystery pagan religion of many gods. And this is what the New Age is all about today. Hollywood, the occult, Kabbalah, Rosicrucian, Zionism, the Jesuits, the Vatican. All these people are into Satanism today. I keep saying that. And they keep giving us satanic rituals on stage, like Madonna doing the thing like the devil, Katy Perry riding the bull with the golden eyes, the giant horse in front of the Colorado airport with the golden eyes, the Conchita Wurst winning the Eurovision, like the American Idol, singing the song Phoenix Rising, with the words, "You can't stop us." And Conchita Wurst means sausage, Conchita means female part. So the blatant satanic rituals are right in front of us. And somehow they seal them. And I think when they do the big incidents where a lot of people die, those are satanic rituals. And when they abduct people, which thousands of young children are abducted yearly, apparently they're having satanic rituals of this sort all over the world. And remember, we are spiritual beings, the bad people, the good people, inside these bioelectro bodies. So it's really not so far-fetched to believe in ghosts and spirits and demons. The Bible, where Jesus cast out demons 12 times. The Catholic Church training more priests for exorcism, because apparently possession is on the increase in 2015. Who would have thunk that? But I do know from 1840 to 1940, the psychic research societies were big time in business, and there are many volumes of books written of seances and Ouija boards and photographing spirits and all kinds of crazy things. And Hitler was into that big time. I'm not trying to drag this out, but I'm just trying to remind everybody that after all this research that I've been doing, is that I'm beginning to see getting the degree is actually a ritual, and then they seal the ritual by bending over and kissing the Bible. You know how they swear in the Bible to have their throat cut, or their breasts cut open, or cut in twain for their first degree, second degree, and third degree. And after they swear on the Bible, they have to kiss the Bible. So I'm learning as I go also. So we know there's 3 degrees, and The chapter has 4 degrees. So like I said, it's just another name for a lodge. The Blue Lodge, the Chapter Lodge. And Mark Mason, Past Master, Most Excellent Master, and Royal Arch. And these will come before us now more particularly. Alright, here we go. The secret work of each degree as set forth by the General Grand Chapter of the United States will be given, including the proper manner of opening, closing, and conferring the degrees, together with the lecture pertaining to each. The whole furnishing a ready and reliable means not alone to Masons, but also to all others of becoming particularly familiar with the mischief and mysteries of the chapter degrees. In Blue Lodge, or symbolic Masonry, all routine business must be transacted in the Master's degree, the 3rd degree. So likewise, in the chapter, all business must be done in the highest or Royal Arch degree. The officers of the chapter, under whose warrant or charter the Mark Mason's degree is conferred, are as follows. So the officers of the chapter are Excellent High Priest, King and Scribe, Captain of the Host, Principal Solvinger, Royal Arch Captain, Master of the 3rd Veil, Master of the 2nd Veil, Master of the 1st Veil, also a Treasurer and Secretary, as in other lodges, and Sentinel or Tyler. The Tyler would be the one who guards the door. So you got Excellent King is the Senior Warden, the Excellent Scribe is the Junior Warden, the Principal Sojourner, Senior Deacon, the Royal Arch Captain, Junior Deacon. So these particular officers play these parts in the degree ritual. Master of the 3rd Veil as Master Overseer, Master of the 2nd Veil as Senior Overseer, Master of the 1st Veil, Junior Overseer, Captain of the Host as Marshal or Masters of Ceremonies. Master Masons only are eligible for the degree of Mark Masons, and the candidate must be balloted for in the chapter as a regular convocation. At a regular convocation. If elected to receive the degree, he is notified when to appear for initiation. So you have to be a Master Mason to have been balloted to go for the Mark Master Mason. But before the degree is conferred, he must be examined in the lecture of the Master Mason's degree as found in the Handbook of Freemasonry. The symbolic color of the first 3 degrees is blue, hence the term Blue Lodge Masonry. The characteristic color of the chapter is scarlet, that's a deep red, and the regalia and jewels of the Royal Arch are those of which are used in the 3 preceding degrees. The meeting of the Blue Lodge is termed a communication. So when they have a meeting in the lodge, it's called a communication. That of a chapter, a convocation. So a chapter does not call it a communication, it calls it a convocation. And in either case are said to be regular or emergent. At a regular meeting, both routine business and initiations can be conducted, while at an emergent meeting, only that particular business for which it has been called can be transacted. I shall take each degree in its order, first opening the lodge or chapter in due and ancient form, and then giving the secret work of the degree, next the lecture and the final, by closing the lodge. Thus every degree will compose of 4 chapters: opening, working, lecturing, and closing. The Master's degree is based upon the legend of Hiram Abiff. The The Mark Mason's degree on the legend of a keystone. If you know what a keystone is, when they build an arch, the last stone that's put in place is right in the top in the middle, and it's shaped like a rectangle, but one side is shorter and the top is wider, hence it's a keystone. It drops into place and it holds the arch in place. Keystone. Here's a picture of it, and here's a picture of how they assemble in the lodge that we're going to discuss. There's how they assemble, the people, and there's the keystone. Both legends are absolutely false. That's what it says here. The various statements being both improbable and impossible. It says right here, I'll point it out. Both the rituals they go through are false. As any intelligent Mason may know by reading the account of how all material for King Solomon's temple was provided. Remember, they want to rebuild King Solomon's temple now, 2015. And they've been working feverishly at it for the last 100 years, but particularly the last 20, 30 years. And it's part of the New Age, New World Order of Zionism, which means, if people go look it up, ruling the world from Mount Zion over there in Israel, the Jerusalem area. So believe it or not, this is what's going on in the world right now with all the craziness, is they do intend to bring about the New World Order. They do intend to microchip everybody, and it seems to me, they do intend to kill off the populations that they don't want. They are killing off populations all over the world right now. I was reading about Syria, and the bloodbath is just endless since 9/11 and of course before. All because of what we're talking about. And the Masonic lodges are basically the creations or controlled by the wealthy elites, the bloodlines of the Illuminati, Rothschilds, Rockefellers, and many names, which are Zionist Jewish folks who made a deal to get the Palestine's land called the Balfour Agreement. Look it up. B-A-L-F-O-R-E. F-O-U-R. Balfour. And so everything is tied to this. This is why I started the series, Freemasonry and Satanism, and exposing things like remote viewing, different kinds of psychic material, spirit photographing, secret projects, the Philadelphia Experiment, Montauk, all this stuff, UFOs, aliens, religions, seeing the aura, all the studies, all this stuff is financed by the elite, and any huge discoveries are, of course, concealed from the public, that they call the profane, and of course the Zionist Jewish folks call those who are not Jewish goyim or cattle. It's all connected. With these preliminary remarks, I shall now proceed to open a lodge of Mark Master Mason. Okay, opening ceremonies. The brethren, having assumed their appropriate regalia, the right worshipful master gives one rap with his gavel. The officers take their respective stations, and brethren are seated in the accompanying diagram. Okay, Brother Senior Warden, are you satisfied that all present are Mark Master Masons? So when they have to have the meeting, they have to make sure that nobody below Mark Master Mason is in that room. And this is how they are seated. It has a description on the bottom of the names of who they are. And that's why I read from these books. I don't want you to believe me. And I thought this was a novel idea to try to get the message across directly from the books when I read from them and show them to you. Because a lot of people would tell me over the years that they don't know what to believe. Who's behind all this stuff going on? 9/11, World War I, World War II, the war between the states, French Revolution, Russian Revolution, so much more. The bombing of the USA ship Liberty, look it up. Israel was bombing that ship to smithereens to try to destroy the relationship between the USA and Egypt. So that's what it said. Oklahoma City bombing, Boston bombing, Sandy Hook, Batman shooting. Why are they doing all these propaganda plays with drama actors, emergency actors, to use as propaganda to try to remove the guns from the people, and then forcing this New Age gay marriage agenda on everybody, and another program called Agenda 21, and Common Core is what they call it over there in Europe, something like that, Common Purpose. Common Core is here with school systems in the USA. And again, with the Eurovision, Conchita Wurst winning the Eurovision in 2014, and all the satanic rituals even during the London Olympics with Lady Gaga doing satanic rituals. It's all obvious if anybody wants to look. But a lot of cases, people have something called normalcy bias, and it's so far-fetched and out there that they don't want to know, they don't want to believe. And I've had people tell me, I don't want to know. When the world explodes and I'm gone, okay, but I don't want to know in the meantime. I can just think about it. What if everybody felt that way? Alright, back to the book. Senior Warden Rising. I will ascertain by my proper officers and report. Brothers senior and junior deacons approach the west. I'm not reading everything. I'm trying to shorten this. They approach the senior warden's station and whisper in his ear the word Joppa, J-O-P-P-A, Joppa. You will now ascertain if all present are Mark Master Masons and report to the west. The deacon then passes along in front of the brethren of the north and south sides of the lodge, and each brother, as the deacon approaches, rises and whispers in his ear the password of the degree, which is Joppa, J-O-P-P-A. This ceremony, which is Masonically termed purging the lodge, purging means making sure there's nobody below that particular degree, that the lodge is opened, that are still in the lodge, must never be omitted in opening any lodge of Masons, and after it is performed, the due guard and the sign of the degree on which the lodge is at work are always given on addressing the right worshipful master. Brother Junior Deacon, what is the first great care of Masons when in a lodge assembled? To see that the lodge is duly tilered, right worshipful master. That means to make sure that there is a guard between the front door of the building and the door into the lodge room, so nobody can eavesdrop or come in and spy on what's going on. To see that the lodge is duly tilered, right worshipful master. Perform that duty and inform the tiler that we are about to open a lodge of Mark Master Mason and direct him to tile accordingly. The junior deacon, opening the ante-room door ajar, tells the tiler in a low voice that a Mark Master's lodge is to be opened, closes the door, and gives 2 knocks in quick succession. The lodge is duly tilered, right worshipful. How is it tilered? By a worthy brother, without armed with the proper implement of his office. What are his duties? To keep off all cowards and eavesdroppers, and admit none but such as are duly qualified and have permission from the right worshipful master. Brother Senior Warden, are you a Mark Master Mason? Senior Warden, I am. Try me. How will you be tried? By the chisel and mallet. By the chisel and mallet? So I'm skipping over all that, how they challenge each other, and moving on to page 10 in the middle of this book, on this second half of this book, I feel. Senior Warden, as the sun is in the west at the close of the day, so is the Senior Warden in the west to assist the right worshipful master in opening and closing the lodge, to pay the craft their wages, if aught be due, and see that none go away dissatisfied, harmony being the support of all well-governed institutions. As the sun rises in the east to open and govern the day, so is the right worshipful master in the east to open and govern the lodge. Set the craft to work and give the proper instructions for their labor. Okay, all the brethren stand. Brother Senior Warden, it is my order that a lodge of Mark Master Masons be now opened for the dispatch of business under the usual Masonic restrictions. Brother Junior Warden, it is the order of the right worshipful master that a lodge of Mark Master Mason be now opened for the dispatch of business under the usual Masonic restrictions. This order you will communicate to the brethren present for their government. Moving on, the brethren, now following the lead of the right worshipful master, make all the signs from the entered apprentice degree, so that of the Mark Master Mason, inclusive as representative and accompanying figures. So here are the pictures of the first degree Dugard and the first degree penal sign. You swear under oath having your throat cut's a penal sign. And the Dugard is just holding both of your hands in front of your stomach. And the second degree, the Dugard, is this. And in the second degree, you swear having your left chest cut open and your heart ripped out if you divulge the secrets. And the third degree is having your body cut in half, so the penal sign is having drawing your hand across your stomach like your body's cut in half. And the Dugard sign is holding your hand here like a salute. The degree of Mark Master Mason is the heave-ho. Heave-ho, like a bag of beans or something. And the grand hailing sign is like this. And the Mark Master penal sign, I guess, is something like this. We're going to read about that in a minute here. And the Dugard is this. And here are the pictures. That's the Mark Master Mason. And these are the first degree, second degree, third degree. You can go online and get one of these books. After which the right worshipful master, removing his hat, reads the following mutilated portion of the scripture. Mutilated. I wonder why he says that. We're going to get to that. Or a minister, if present, may read it, from which by Masonic law, get this, it's too much to believe what I'm about to tell you, which from by Masonic law, the name of Jesus Christ is knowingly and wickedly excluded. So they have to exclude Jesus Christ's name. They can't say that name. Now think about what's going on in the world right now. that the churches are not allowed to have anybody in church talk about politicians, separation of church and state. And it's even getting tougher. They can't even, now, if they don't approve of the gay marriage and all that, the government's going to try to drum them out of business. Who controls the government? These people. And they say that they have the pagan religion, they worship Satan. So there is no church separation of church and state. If these people take over, it will be the worshipful Lucifer, Satan, the devil, demons that communicate with the occult mystery school initiation teachings. But they don't want people talking about Jesus or to Jesus or praying. And apparently it's going to come to a great battle in the world, and Christians everywhere will be rounded up, beheaded maybe. This stuff is serious. I got a little spider running around my screen. So, anyways, that's what it says here. Wherefore, brethren, lay aside all malice, and guile, and hypocrisy, hypocrites, and envies, and all evil speakings. If so be ye have tasted that the Lord is gracious, to whom coming as unto a living stone, disallowed even of men, but chosen of God, and precious. I'm interrupting again, reading this, but if you go read the Jerusalem Post online, jpost.com, it's Jerusalem's leading newspaper in Israel. Remember, it was the Jews who wanted Jesus crucified. And they couldn't kill their own, according to the way I understand it. So they had the Roman leader do it, of the military. And because they didn't accept Jesus as the Savior, because Jesus was the one who overturned the money changers' tables in the temple. And he wasn't going along with their power structure. And Jesus was out there healing and feeding the poor and preaching to the poor. Jesus was disrupting the power structure of those times. So even today, many Jews still hate the fact that Jesus came and all that, and they say so. What was that one comedian, female on stage on YouTube videos? She goes, if Jesus was here, I'd kill him again. That's what she said. And I was at a downtown restaurant the other day in North Carolina, and there were a bunch of young people, between 20 and 30, about a dozen people at a table, all cracking jokes. And I was sitting there drinking a beer, and I overheard some of the things they were talking about Jesus. I couldn't believe it. It's this mindset going on in the world. This is serious business. These are the guys in charge. World wars, murder, mayhem, theft, stock market control, killing people to take their businesses. Henry Ford tells us that in his books. We're going to go over some more of his books. If so, ye have been tasted of that the Lord is gracious, to whom coming as unto a living stone, disavowed indeed of men, but chosen of God, and precious. Ye also as living stones, be ye built up a spiritual house, a holy priesthood, to offer up sacrifices acceptable to God. Did you just hear me? They were doing this prayer in the lodge. To offer up sacrifices acceptable to God. On the bottom line, I'm reading a Blue Lodge handbook. You would never have known. Wherefore also it is contained in the scriptures, behold, I lay in Zion. Remember Zionism? The people in charge of Israel right now, Benjamin Netanyahu says he hates the United States, and we're the golden calf to be fleeced again and again, and they're going to run the United States into the ground to be the worst third world nation there is, in which they will fleece and rob and take everything they want and sell off the assets and properties. Benjamin Netanyahu supposedly said that in Fink's Bar in one of my previous videos. I showed you the document. Look up Benjamin Netanyahu in Fink's Bar and read it yourself. And if I'm wrong, there's a comment section. But just because you go to that one website that debunks things, and it's there as it's something that's debunked, don't believe it. Do some more homework. I looked up one keyword today on a comment I was writing on a press release. And in 1881 or something, when Abraham Lincoln declared martial law, remember we did have a war between the states, North and South, and apparently, according to some documents, the people running our country behind the scenes never undid the martial law situation and have been running the show under something called admiralty law, martial law, since, which basically doesn't serve the people with their constitutional rights, but serves the corporate structures that control the United States. Admiralty law. Look that up. Look up, get that gold fringe off my flag. Those exact words. And you will notice when you see President Obama or Bush, anybody speak, you will see a gold fringe behind them in the background. And that's an indication of martial law or admiralty law in effect. And I've said that on some of my press releases on the internet of Associated Press or Routers. And I've even gotten death threats. Or people tell me that, you know, I'm going to get arrested. I shouldn't be saying that. Why? Is it true? 2.7 million results when you look it up. You get the gold fringe off my flag, or U.S. and martial law status, Abraham Lincoln. 2.7 million results on the internet. So, behold, I lay in Zion, which means ruling from Israel, Jerusalem, for a foundation, a tried stone, a precious cornerstone, a sure foundation. He that believeth shall not make haste to pass it over. Unto you, therefore, which believe, it is an honor to, and even that to them which be disobedient, the stone which the builders disallowed, the same is made the head of the corner. Brethren, this is the will of God, that with well-doing ye put to silence the ignorance of foolish men, as free, and not using your liberty for a cloak of maliciousness, but as the servants of God. Honor all men, love the brotherhood. Love the brotherhood, you get that? That's what all these lodges, Illuminati are, they're brotherhood, which excludes everybody else. Fear God, says Peter 2-1, 7, 15, 17. So basically what they did is they took some scripture out of the Bible and they altered it. They took out any reference to Jesus. So RMW Worshipful Master continuing, I now declare this lodge of Mark Master Masons erected to God and dedicated to the memory of Hiram Abiff. That's the guy, the Master Mason contractor who was building King Solomon's temple. When the three ruffians killed him, the story we went through on my earlier videos in this series 61. Opened in due form, Brother Junior Deacon informed the Tyler, Brother Senior Deacon displayed the three great lights. There are 4 regular signs in all connected with the Mark Master's degree, and are given in their orders as follows. The heave over, the grand hailing sign, the Dugard, and the penal sign. The heave-ho alludes to the rejection of the keystone, is made by placing the open palm and the right palm in that of the left near the right hip, both palms open and turned upward, then raise them with a quick motion as if heaving something over the shoulder. I do this as best I can. Alright, the grand hailing sign is made by extending right arm with the two first fingers, the grand hailing, thumb and hand outstretched, and the other two fingers clenched. It alludes to the manner of carrying the keystone between the thumb and the two first fingers. It is also the manner of receiving wages. The dugard is made by passing the two first fingers of the right hand over the right ear, as if pushing back the hair, and alludes to a part of the penalty of the obligation to have the right ear cut off. So I guess that's, you get your right ear cut off if you do something wrong, heroes. Let's read further. The penal sign is made by extending the right arm, palm upward, bringing lower edge to left hand, open palm down, and on the right wrist, as if chopping off the right hand. I guess that's the penalty for divulging the secrets. The right hand and the right ear cut off. It alludes to the additional part of the penalty of having the right hand chopped off. So that's all I'm going to read here from that. As you can see, that actually ends that portion of this here. It starts right there in the next page. The Master Mason's degree secret work, which I will take off from there. Apparently I'm going to be exceeding my 10 videos for this book. I'm probably going to go with 12 before I call it enough is enough. But now I have a book review that's going to be crazy. Alright, this ought to be interesting. And again, I like to point out, I like to give credit where credit is due on all these book reviews I'm doing. I'm not trying to read the entire book to you. If you like the small portion of the book of what I do read, go buy the book. If the authors deserve it, this book here, I don't think you can find them for cheap anymore. Bloodlines of the Illuminati. Fritz Springmeier. Look at that symbol of the bird with the two heads in the crown. You see that two heads in the crown eagle on the Masonic lodges if you look up. I had a neighbor walk up. Anyways, it's an amazing book. It says on the back here, you've seen pieces of the puzzle, but still you wonder. And that's why I'm doing videos the way I'm doing them. I'm trying to take away the wonder and say, okay, I get it. And then maybe we'll all recognize the seriousness of the problem we're in. Bloodlines of the Illuminati is a unique historical genealogical who's doing it book rich in detail, providing a devastating expose of the people and families who are the movers and shakers of the United States and the entire world. You will recognize some of the names instantly. Many names have been purposely hidden from mainstream view. So you can go on, there's Fritz there. You can go on YouTube and see some of his videos and see him speaking. And it's has names in here, start at the beginning here. Astor, William Backhouse Astor. These people throughout history have been controlling things. Collins, Bundy, McGeorge Bundy. It goes into great detail. Kennedy, Freeman, DuPont, Lai, even the Oriental people here. Remember, Israel is in the Grand Orient Lodge. Israel's right over there in the Orient, Asia Minor, and just above Africa. Here's the Lai family. Kingpin Lai Ka-shing with his son Victor. So these people control the money, the banks. Even in China and Japan, all over the world, they have these brotherhood. The Onassis. We've all heard these names in the news. Rockefeller, of course. Chase Bank, Rockefeller Center, Rothschilds, big one. They say the Rothschilds are the leader of the entire 13. Where I'm going with this today is the Russells. So I'm going to just do the chapter about the Russells. And as you can see, I read it, I highlighted it. And there's going to be a reason why I'm doing the Russells. Remember, this is Freemasonry and Satanism. And I'm saying that in 1776, Adam Weishaupt, under the direction of the Rothschilds, was to organize all the Masonic lodges worldwide and unite them, and other occultic secret mystery school organizations like the Rosicrucians, witchcraft, the cult, Kabbalah, and create one pyramidal structure of power called the Illuminati. And it gives the meaning all-seeing eye on the US dollar bill, which is, they're telling us that they're in charge, with the pyramid and the sun's rays in the background. But with the computers today, the cell phones, and laptops, and cameras, and check cashing cards, and discount cards when you go to the grocery store, you qualify for the discount price if you scan it. They've found a way to know everything we're doing and see it, document it. Credit cards, bank accounts they monitor, all computerized. Just gives a whole new meaning to all-seeing eye. And, you know, look at this on this skeleton on the front. What's in his hand? He's got the earth, not the earth, but the moon and the sun. And the leaves on his head. I think those are probably the acacia leaves we read about in the Freemasonic book. So I noticed that's on the dollar and everything else around the symbol for the United Nations. So as you can see, I'm really getting in depth on this and starting to recognize the symbols. So let's go ahead on 313 and talk about Knights Templar. Remember, the Knights Templar were the precursors for the Rosicrucians maybe, and at least the Freemasons. So Charles T. Russell was a Knights Templar. Alright, the Russell family contents. The search got started, the obvious Illuminati Russells. There is no way for the researcher to ignore the Russells. Bill Clinton, Era Taft Benson and the Mormons, C.J.T. Russell and the Jehovah's Witnesses. When we read this here, it's going to tie a lot of what I've read and talked about together. And again, I'm only doing my highlighted portions. You can go online, find the book. I think Alex Jones is selling his books on the InfoWars site and other sites. Charles Taze Russell, called Pastor Russell, started the Watchtowers Society. Wow. Which are now called the Jehovah's Witnesses. So a high-level member of the Illuminati, a high-level member of the Freemasonic Lodges, Knights Templar, started the Jehovah's Witnesses, and they're pagans. And they don't allow Jesus Christ's name to be in the Freemasonic lodges or the material books. Okay, it would involve interviewing people. Again, this is Fritz Springmeier talking about his investigation. Connected with Freemasonry. To make a long story short, the investigation covered several years and got very intense. What was discovered was absolutely shocking. I started this investigation, mine, 10 years ago, 2000 and can't remember the year. It's 2014 now. So 2005. I had one of those 0 birthdays, and I went to Costa Rica, and I'm sitting at a tiki bar on the Pacific Ocean, Jaco Beach, near the world-famous surfing beach, Hermosa Beach. I was the only American at the tiki bar drinking El Presidente beer, and there were people from Argentina, Germany, Holland, Canada, everywhere, and they were telling me things that I didn't believe. When I flew back to Florida, I started getting on my computer and looking up what they told me. And one day I finally got so upset, I jumped in my truck and drove over to Barnes & Noble and looked for the books that they were talking about, and they were there, and just opened the books and the stuff was there. And I realized the world wasn't what I thought it was. Maybe ignorance was bliss, and maybe I could have had a whole lot more fun being the powerboater, sailboater, party boy that I was for most of my life. But instead, I decided to investigate what's going on for 10 years, and then I would write a couple books. It was a premeditated plan I made with myself. And prior to that, in my business, I always made 5-year plans what I would do. I worked at a major aerospace company for 10 years. After I graduated from a high-tech school. And then I made 5-year plans in my business that I own now. And I've been in business for myself 25 years. So between 10 years at the aerospace company and 25 years owning my own company, that's 35 years, 5-year plans. So I made a 10-year plan 10 years ago to investigate what the heck is going on. That's simple. And I was interested in alternate energy to get away from oil and gas and nuclear power. And I consider myself a techie guy. I read a lot of books on physics and everything. So I decided to read autobiographies of past scientists, Edison, Nikola Tesla, and others. And I read Edgar Cayce. And I learned about dowsing, finding water. And I kept astonishing myself by what I discovered. So hopefully this is going to astonish you if you're watching this video. And you will recognize, if you've been watching my videos, or doing any homework of your own, that there is a conspiracy. There are some nasty people behind the scenes, and they have been fleecing us, causing a lot of havoc, and if they want something you have, and you don't give it up willingly, you'll likely wind up deceased, falling out of a ski lift chair, even a plane blown up just to do you under. So you have a huge corporation, company they want. Alright, here we go. It was this author's investigation into Charles Taze Russell that eventually grew into an investigation of the entire Illuminati organization. And I'll just read, like I said, some highlighted portions here. Charles Taze Russell got enormous financial support for his organization for many years. Who gave him money? Who had something to gain? What did they want? We know that Albert Pike in 1880s sent that letter to his friend in Europe detailing the required 3 world wars to have a new world order. And we know that Albert Pike, if you've been reading his books and material, apparently was talking to some kind of spirit guide, an entity on the other side, spiritualism, to get his material. So on the other side, in this ghost world, if you will, where the demons are, the angels are, whatever, do they know the future? What did they tell Albert Pike, and why did he write that letter and his big thick volume that we've gone over, and we're going to go over again, Morals and Dogma? These videos, we get closer and closer to the truth, the all-seeing eye. So we have to go in to read books and review books. They get higher level of understanding. So this is the appropriate time to introduce this book. Again, I've used this book in past videos. Russell's organization got support from international bankers, Rothschilds, Rockefeller, Chases, Morgans, the people who started World War I, World War II, via the Freemasons and the Order of the Benign Birth, which is a huge Jewish organization promoting the Zionism agenda, and Aliyah, if you look it up on the J-Post, it's a program that they're running now to get Jewish people all over the world to return to their homeland. It's called a return, but the Jewish name for it is Aliyah. Go look up J-Post, you'll see the Aliyah button, click it, you'll see people getting off of ships. And in many countries where the people did not want to willingly leave, they crashed the economy, they riled up troubles so that the citizens would start hating the Jewish people. They created situations so those Jewish people would leave when prior they would not leave. They did that in Iraq. They're doing that, and they're trying to do that in Iran. They have a lot of Jewish people in Iran who are happy to live in Iran. But they've got to nip that in the bud and get those Jewish people out of there. I guess it's required to get all the Jewish people to come home before they go and destroy the world. They can't go destroy their own, like they couldn't destroy Jesus. They had to have the Romans do it. Just my conclusions. Charles Taze Russell worked with powerful Zionists. Remember, they want to have rule world from Jerusalem and Tel Aviv, who have been an active part of the world order. C.T. Russell was friends with the Rothschilds. C.T. Russell was the first Zionist in America, and the Rothschilds were early promoters of Zionism. Remember that book I showed you on the state of Israel? That Rothschilds had one of his men write, who worked for him at one of his publishing companies. Charles Taze Russell was a Freemason and deeply involved in the occult, including the use of healing handkerchiefs. Healing handkerchiefs, I never heard of that. The magical winged sun disk. This looks like a winged disc. Remember, see the round ball behind the wing? And then the rays coming out. Enochian magic, pyramidology, Rosicrucianism, and other occult activities. I'll add witchcraft, Kabbalah. Charles T. Russell had a hidden side of him, including accusations by his wife that he was a pedophilia. Oh my God. Everywhere I look, these occultists are into pedophilia. And abducting women, children, sacrificing them on an altar. Records show how he owned secret silver and gold mines, large secret holdings of real estate, and secret catches of gold at his headquarters. C.T. Russell and his organization were connected to the satanic elite in many ways. Alright, you can see how much I highlighted on these pages. In 1990, this author came out with the book The Watchtower and the Masons, which was an introduction to the kind of information I had discovered. Fritz Springmeier writing this. Buy his book. Not trying to plagiarize or take credit for it. I learned what I learned by reading from people who did a lot of work before I ever came along. This information was shocking enough that dozens of Jehovah's Witnesses left the Watchtower Society upon reading my book. So Fritz wrote the book The Watchtower and the Masons, and it caused a lot of Watchtower witnesses to leave the Watchtower Society. The Watchtower and the Masons was only a drop in the bucket. That is to say, only a small part of what had been discovered and needed to be said. Although C.T. Russell, branch of the Russell family, had done an excellent job at covering their tracks, it was clear that they were definitely connected to the Illuminati. The actual genealogical connections have not yet been found, although genealogical work was done to find out C.T. Russell's ancestors. Records show that the Russell families were German Jews who immigrated to Scotland and then to Northern Ireland and then to Pennsylvania. There's something else I discovered in my research. You know, they say a Jewish person can never be president of the United States. I say, and from my research, a lot of famous people in the world today that have adopted the Christian religion were actually Jewish. Altered their name in one form or another to blend in. And they do that wherever country they went, these Jewish people. So David was the last name, and they would change it to David's son. Stuff like that. Alright. Russell family was one of the top 13 families of the bloodline. The preponderance of evidence from so many sources was simply overwhelming. Some kind of weather front came through and seriously upset my susceptibility to hay fever or something. Alright, the obvious Illuminati Russells. In 1986, Antonio Sutton, S-U-T-T-O-N, came out with his great expose of the Order of the Skull and Bones. George Bush, maybe? His father and his father Prescott. Persons who had inside information had sent large parcels, an 8-inch batch of documents on the order. So 8 inches thick of material on the Skull and Bones. The Order of the Skull and Bones had been organized at Yale by General William Huntington Russell. We go Russell. And Alfonso Taft in 1833. And then legally incorporated as the Russell Trust in 1856. The original name of the order was the Society of Brothers in Unity. The Illuminati started 5 fraternal groups at Yale: the Skull and Bones, the Scroll and Key, the Book and Snake, the Wolf's Head, and the Brazilias. At Princeton, they started the Ivy Club and the Cottage Club. At Harvard, they started the Porcelain, also known as the Pork or the Pig Club. The order is set itself up at Phillips Academy. The order also set itself up as Phillips Academy, Andover, Mass. in 1870. So when I tell you this, Freemasonry, New World Order, New Age, all this stuff goes back hundreds of years. Yes, they have a long-range plan. In some say with this Jade Helm going on right now, and the trying to take Assad down in Syria and attack Iran, putting the final nails in this coffin and passing legislation to force people to take vaccines, sky spraying, HARP systems, distributing weapons all across the United States, the police, military units buying millions and millions of bullets, and some nasty bullets. Hollow points. What happened when the Caesar, Rome, in the 300 years or so after Jesus was dead, died on the cross, and they took over Christianity? The Crusades and the murdering that went on for people who wouldn't follow in line and go with the new religion. Yes? So now they're going to switch to Lucifer. And what, are they going to do the same thing? If you don't go with the Luciferian program, you're dead? It seems so. The rituals, history, and influence of these Illuminati fraternities is too massive of a subject for this book. A list of some of the members will be included in the appendix. The Order of the Skull and Bones membership comes from an elite families, and these men have wielded enormous power in the United States. And I keep saying the senators, representatives, presidents, it's just a revolving door of these families. Basically, we have a changing of the seats dictatorship. So the people don't think it's a dictatorship. They think they're actually electing these presidents, which Roosevelt clearly said, presidents are not elected, presidents are selected. And the dumb people, we the people, think we're electing for the Clinton or the Bush, but no matter which one wins, they win. A revolving dictatorship. It's the same people in charge, but we just think it's a different person. What did Jeb Bush says? And he was being quizzed on some issues about foreign policy and Iraq and stuff like that. He says, well, I'm not like my brother. Really? Same money, same family. And if he were to try to go the decent way and expose it to the people, like Kennedy, he would be killed. The only way we're going to beat this thing is for people to wake up. The Russell Trust was created in Wiccan Hut Security Companies, which are private Illuminati armies with guard key installations such as the flying saucer bases. We all know the CIA people that I just showed you in my last video coming across the border with pounds of cocaine with the big black scorpion logo on it. There's too much evidence out there. These secret agencies are working for the large corporations that control America and the world, and they will go as far as to set somebody up, fake evidence, lie, to shut people up that get in their way. But most people know that by now. 911 is an inside job. Alright, so William Huntington Russell, 1809 to 1885, is a significant person. He is descended from Reverend Nodia Russell, who along with Reverend James Pinport founded Yale. The Collins Illuminati family and the Unitarian Church were also involved in the founding of Yale University. Reverend James Pinport's descendants went on to become Masons, Skull and Bonesmen, and marry into bloodlines connected to Princess Di. Alright, married Illuminati. His daughter married Illuminati financier John Pinport Morgan's dad. So they intermarry to keep the money that way. Meanwhile, Reverend Nodia Russell and the other founder went on to have his descendants become slave and opium shippers, as well as pirates. That's where a lot of these people get their money. William Huntington Russell, the founder of the Order of the Skull and Bones. This family's company, Russell and Company, had the skull and bones as its company logo. Top business partners: William Delano Jr., who was grandfather to FDR Roosevelt, and chief of Russell and Company's operations opium in China. The Taft family had been an important bloodline in the Skull and Bones. George Bush, there you go, is related to both the Taft family and the Moro Virginians. However you say that name. President Bill Clinton is also related to the Taft family. So President Clinton and President Bush are related to each other. And perhaps the Rockefeller family. A leading genealogist in England has said that Bill Clinton has a great deal of Merovingian blood too. Merovingian, however you say that word. Merovingian. Oh, isn't that funny though? Washington, D.C. sits between Virginia, it's named that way for the Virgin, and Maryland, which is Mary, Mother of Jesus. District of Columbia sits between Maryland and Virginia. You think it's all incidental? I live in North Carolina. We got Columbia, the city, nearby, and South Carolina, and Charlotte in North Carolina, where they just built a brand new city, it seems, and are moving the financial district from New York City. Some of it, and some people are saying they're prepping New York for something big because the Federal Reserve or some stuff like that moved off to Chicago. And even Obama said he feared that New York might get nuked. And Lindsey Graham, senator, said he feared that Charleston would get nuked. It's weird stuff going on. Might behoove us to wake up. The Russell family and the Taft family are closely related. These families have played a role within the leadership of the Jehovah's Witnesses, here we go, and the Mormons. That's what it says here. This author has also worked with a number of people who are participants in the Illuminati. So we're tying together the Illuminati, the Mormons, the Jehovah's Witnesses, Bushes, the Clinton, the Tafts. This author has also worked with a number of people who are participants in Illuminati satanic rituals performed by the leaders of the Jehovah's Witnesses and also the leaders of the Mormon LDS Church. Got a picture here, George Bush, man and politician, skull and bones picture there. So I told you, this book here is the bomb, puts everything together. Moving on, and again, only my highlighted portions. Go buy his book, I keep saying. It's an invaluable resource. Who's Who. There is no getting around the Russell family for the researcher. The following are some obvious members of the world order elite that are Russells. Alright, part of the Russells hold the title of Dukes of Bedford. Ordo W. Russell served in Lord Palmerston's office from 1850 to 1852. He served as unofficial ambassador for Great Britain to the Vatican. These people are all tied together. From 1857 to 1870. His son Baron Amthal was Grand Master of the English Masons. Here we are tying him in with the Masons. 1908-1935. He joined the English equivalent of the Knights of Malta. That is the Order of St. John of Jerusalem. There we are, tying Israel and Jerusalem together here. He was appointed head of the Indian Masons of Madras, India. See, the Masons are even in India. Home of the Theosophical Society. That would be Helena Blavatsky's secret, the leader of the, what's the name of that book? Why don't I get it? Because Fritz Springmeier's book, mentions the, can't even say the word properly, Theosophical Society. I'll let you look at it and you can see if you can. Anyways, Russell was appointed head of the Indian Masons at Madras, India, home of this Theosophical Society. Okay, so basically, to make the story short, Helena Blavatsky went to India. She was from southern Russia, the Ukraine area, and was psychic. Had tendencies to be able to do different things a lot of people couldn't do. And so then she came to America, hooked up with some people, went to India, and back during 1840s to 1940s, I keep saying, the psychic research societies were investigating ghost sightings, table rapping, psychics, trying to debunk it and or investigate how it was done. And Helena Blavatsky became very knowledgeable and famous, and wrote a book called The Secret Doctrine, which in the future, hopefully not too far, we will go through this book. So that's what I'm saying. As I go further on along with my book review progression, some of the material is going to get pretty deep. And understanding the background of the previous videos I made will be helpful. You know, it says right here, I just opened this to page 393. You can pause it and read it, and I'll read it for you. The man in the moon, Osiris Set, Jehovah Satan, Christ Judas, and other lunar twins is often charged with bad conduct. In the lunar phenomenon, the moon was one as the moon, which was twofold in sex, and threefold in character, as mother, child, and adult male. Thus the child of the moon became the consort of his own mother. It could not be helped if there was to be any reproduction. He was compelled to be with his own father. So, this certainly take a little mind bending to get into Helena Blavatsky's The Secret Doctrine, where she learned a lot of the religious aspects of those yogas in India that could sit there in the freezing cold for days, not eat or levitate. Magic. And while I was grabbing some books, I keep saying things about where it's said in there that these Illuminati and occultists and all that are into pedophilia, and I mentioned the Franklin cover-up. I do have this book, I have not read it yet. Child Abuse, Satanism, and Murder in Nebraska. Grand jury says abuse stories. Franklin Mancrude, Senators Todd Schmidt. The shutdown of Omaha, Nebraska's Franklin Community Federal Credit Union, raised by federal agencies in November 1988, sent shockwaves all the way to Washington, D.C. So apparently there was a whole lot more in this scandal and the things that they were into. And then another one of the successors to Helena Blavatsky was Alice Bailey. And again, why I'm mentioning these right now is because a lot of people are into the yoga, meditation, New Age, which is part of the gay agenda, and why they want to remove the guns, because they know a lot of people won't go along with this stuff. Lucifer worship. You think people all are going to go along? Are all people that stupid? Alright, but I'll just read one little snippet here. We've gone over this book. Dangers arriving from the subtle forces that you ignorantly call evil. Such dangers consist in attack on the pupil by extraneous entities on some one plane. Extraneous entities would probably be something like ghosts or demons on the other side. These entities may simply be discarnate human beings. So it could be somebody's soul that wound up on the negative plane, didn't go to heaven. It's in her book here. These are the people behind the New Age. You don't believe me. This book was published by Lucas Publishing Company, formerly known as Lucifer Publishing Company, based in New York, but obviously they changed it. If you look it up on Wikipedia, Lucas Publishing, it says right there that it was formerly Lucifer Trust. So let's see what the Lucifer Trust, and I think Alice Bailey was one of the founders of Lucifer Trust, the devil. Okay, these entities may simply be discarnate human beings. They may be citizens, not citizens, citizens on the other planes who are non-human. Later on, when the student is of sufficient importance to attract notice, when the student is of significant importance. So if I was studying the occult and magic and traveling in the leaving my body, and I was noticed by these beings on the interdimensional black area, that's what I call it, the attack may come from these who deal purely with matter to the hindrance of the spiritual growth, the black magicians, the dark brothers, and the other forces that appear destructive. This appearance is only such when viewed from the angle of time in our three worlds, but incidental to the fact that our Logos himself is also evolving. So I think they're calling the God the Logos. From the standpoint of the infinity greater ones who assist him in his development, it is dependent upon his transitory imperfections. The imperfections of nature, as we term them, are the imperfection of the Logos, who will eventually be transcended. So there's more in here about demons and Alice Bailey, and it says Lucas Trust, Lucifer Trust. And anyways, Alice Bailey followed Helena Blavatsky in controlling the Theosophical Society. Just making a point when I get back to the bloodlines of the Illuminati. And then when we started out this whole series, we started out with the Masonic Bible. And we know that all this stuff going on in the Middle East is part of all of this, part of the New World Order. Because remember in the Freemasons handbook, King Solomon, Hiram Abiff building the temple. So this is the Masons Bible. It says right here, King Solomon. The Bible and King Solomon's temple and masonry. So this is pretty serious stuff. The complete series of illustrations is arranged as follows: forecourt porch, front elevation, plan of King Solomon's temple, front elevation of King Solomon's temple, site elevation of temple, gathering materials for the temple, view from the northeast corner. Remember when the Masons arranged themselves in their lodges for their initiations, getting your first degree, second degree, third degree, meetings, communications. They set it up like King Solomon's temple. Porch and pillars of King Solomon's temple. House of the fairest daughter, King Solomon's wife and queen. Got a whole list of things here of the illustrations in this book. So let's just be brief and look at them. The Holy Bible, the great light in Masonry. But remember, the Old Testament was before Jesus Christ. Was the Hebrewic, much of it. And in the New Testament that the Hebrews, the Jews, say is irrelevant. Jesus was nobody. Many Jews. Some Jews do believe in Jesus, and if you're in Israel, and you might wind up with a bomb in your mailbox if you promote Christianity, Jesus. So here on page 9, the Ark of the Covenant, because all this stuff is why I'm mentioning it now again. It's when I continue reading on with the bloodline of the Illuminati and the Blue Lodge Handbook. They talk about all this stuff. It's all connected. Here's a paragraph here on the Ark of the Covenant in the Freemasonic Bible. The Ark of the Covenant was an ark or chest of shitten wood, 2 1/2 cubits long, 1 1/2 cubits high, 5 by 3 by 3, overlaid with gold, embellished with a crown of gold extending around the chest. 4 rings of pure gold were set in the 4 corners, 2 on one side and 2 on the other, through which they were passed through wooden staves, overlaid with gold used in the carrying of the sacred chest. Remember the Indiana Jones movie? Where they were opened the chest and the light came out and killed all the soldiers? And Indiana Jones and his female partner there were blindfolded, and he said, "Don't look at it. Close your eyes." What was her name? Anyways, the lid and covering was the mercy seat, and was 1 piece of pure gold, 2 1/2 cubits long and 1 1/2 cubits broad. Upon each end of this mercy seat were the cherubim, those little baby angels, made of pure beaten gold. These cherubim stretched forth their wings on high, so as to cover the mercy seat, their faces being inward toward the mercy seat. In this ark or chest, and directly underneath the mercy seat, was the testimony or the 10 commandments upon 2 tablets of stone. The Ark of the Covenant, thus fittingly enshrined, was the only piece of furniture in the most holy place. So the 10 Commandments. The guide to live in. Apparently the Masons are not living by that. They're controlling the world, the Illuminati, the Zionism, and they're mass murdering people. But then again, they don't consider Goyim, non-Jewish people, as humans, but cattle, and they are allowed to slaughter cattle. So I guess you can bypass the law if you got the right lawyer. It was visited but once a year by the high priest on the Day of Atonement to make atonement for the sins of the people. This was the most solemn ceremony of Hebrew worship. So I'm just trying to say this is the Hebrew Bible. It's got a lot of stuff, the Masonic Bible. It's got a lot of stuff seriously tied to the Old Testament, the Hebrews. So they don't acknowledge Jesus Christ. They laugh at Christians for even going there. There's the picture of the temple. My first video was on this. So it's obviously the ancient mystery school teachings. When they attacked Iraq, first thing they went to was the museums to get all the artifacts. Some of the curators inside the museum exposed this on some YouTube videos. So we can clearly see it's the ancient mystery school stuff. The winged beasts, lions. You can see the lions here. You could probably go online and find yourself a Masonic Bible. Alright, one other thing I touched on. I said from 1840 to 1940, prior to World War II, there was these societies. It even has an all-seeing eye on this book. Phantasms of the Living. University books with the eye. Phantasms of the Living, Cases of Telepathy, printed in the Journal of the Society of Psychical Research during 35 years Eleanor Mildred Sedgwick, and Phantasms of the Living by Edwin Gurry, Frederick Myers, and Frank Podmore. So I just like to go in here and just find something interesting to give you an idea. So we're talking about crystal gazing here. Do you often have similar experiences and warnings? The answer, very often, especially before sickness. Yes, but I have never, have you ever heard of crystal gazing? Yes, but I have never looked through one. So these people who have psychic experiences, the psychic researchers, high-level people probably from the Masonic lodges, spent 1840 to 1940 researching all these cases. This case, enclosed case of dream premonition, may interest the psychic researcher in adding one more instances for the accumulation of cases for investigation. My nephew, Mr. Penrose, having mentioned the case to me, I wrote for a little more information, which having been aided in the form of the statement from the groom, I now beg to forward. So I'm going to read this one case. It's going to make sense, because people don't believe in magic. They don't believe in ghosts. Illuminati, Freemasonic lodges, the serious intent of Israel to rebuild the temple, the communication with demons from the other side, Albert Pike writing Morals and Dogma, Helena Blavatsky having a spirit guide, writing her thick book here, the Secret Doctrine, Alice Bailey speaking to spirit guides or masters in meditation, and writing her book about all the beings from the other side. So what is it with their pedophilia and sacrificing people in satanic rituals, as we see on the football halftime shows, and the London Olympics, and much more? 911 towers being dropped. Killing a lot of people on certain dates, 911. All right, on April 2nd, 1906, between 4 a.m. and 5 a.m., Robert Glenn, coachman to J. Penrose, Esquire, woke suddenly having a dream that a mare under his charge had foaled and that he was badly wanted. He immediately dressed, went to the stable, which was about 20 or 30 yards distance from his house, and found the mare had just foaled. The foal was extremely weak, so the mare had a baby, and would undoubtedly have died if he had not come when he did to give assistance. So he's laying in bed. He has this premonition that the mare had foaled. He gets up and he finds out it's true, and he's there to save the day. A whole big thick book here of people having cases like a soldier in Germany dies from the UK, London, and his mother is in the UK at their farm, their ranch. She wakes up in bed and there's this spirit entity standing there. This is stuff like this in this book. And he says, I come to say goodbye, Mom, I have died. And pass on maybe some more information, I love you, whatever. And then a couple of days later, of course, they didn't have telephones back then, or mail. They had the Pony Express type of thing, carriages. Then there comes a courier from the military to tell the mother that the son had died, and she says, I already knew. He came to me in the spirit form. So, got all these books on the ground here. And again, I mentioned The Jewish State by Theodore Herzl here. Herzl, whom Rothschild, this guy worked for one of his printing companies, and Rothschild had him write a book about how they were going to plan and bring about the Jewish state in the year 1896 published. So all this shenanigans, this New World Order, this New Age, has been going on with this plan for quite a while. And apparently now with the world of 6+ billion people and the U.S. Georgia Guidestones that say they want 500 million, apparently these elites who have been studying all this occultic communication with beings on the other side, which they're setting the stage now for UFO and aliens, which is why I did those videos. That's who those aliens are, is apparently, like it says in the Bible, they opened up some kind of portals and they're allowing these beings into our dimension. And apparently, like the U.S. Georgia Guidestones say, these elites all over the world, bloodlines of the Illuminati, from the Freemasonic handbook I've been reading, all the lodges in every town and every country and every nook and cranny of the earth, it's a big secret power structure, people. And they select people who join the lodges to move up, who apparently would follow the Luciferian doctrine or lifestyle, which is not the Ten Commandments, stealing and killing and pedophilia and sacrificing. They have to find people who will go along, who have the greed and the selfishness and apathy to go along, and then you can move up. And a lot of movie stars talk about this on talk shows and break down in tears and say, don't do it. It's a world you don't want to go into. So getting back to this book, I'm trying to just say that there is something more. And these people know all the secrets, have been doing all the research. And like I said, Albert Pike, Helen Blavatsky, Alice Bailey, a lot of people in Hollywood, Star Trek writer Gene Roddenberry apparently was into the occult, would go in meditative states, communicate with the other side to get the storylines. There's a book written about that, about a lot of people in Hollywood who were into the occult, and a lot of actors who, before they were to go and do their acting, would go into a meditative state and seemingly become possessed by some other entity who would come forward and play that part like Shakespeare. And then after they were through, the person would relapse, and that entity, demonic spirit or whoever, would leave them. They said Marilyn Monroe had this problem, that when she did her parts that she was supposed to do, she would become possessed, and as soon as the situation was over and the entity left her, she would relapse into a very dreary state. So when I talk about, anyways, in this book here on page 316, it mentions the Theosophical Society, and that's where it came from 1840 to 1940, and probably before. There was a lot of this going on for hundreds of years. 300 or 400 years ago, the kings and queens were inquisitions and killing Knights Templars and burning them at the stake. It's all hard to believe, but it's the reality we're in today. And let me read on here some more to finish this video. Bertrand Russell, famous Fabian socialist and one-worlder, remember, from this dark side, this other side, Lucifer's return, this one-world religion. That's what the New Age and New World Order is all about. That's what the gay agenda is all about. That's what's removing all the guns are about. The United Nations, the economic destruction of the USA. And I can't get anything than reading this book because I keep connecting all the dots. Sky spraying, HARP systems, Ebola plague they're developing in laboratories. It's crazy. Approaching Planet X, Anunnaki, aliens, UFOs, fastest growing church of Satan right now. Tattoos on everybody, body piercings, gruesome tattoos. Bertrand Russell, famous Fabian socialist. The Fabian Society, and their logo is a wolf in sheep's clothing. No kidding, go look it up. It's got a wolf under this sheep's skin. And these are the Fabians who are put in a lot of powerful positions all over the world. And they're one-worlders. member of the Committee of 300. His book's written on that. Some people have expressed their opinion that Bertrand Russell was one of the most evil men in modern history. Eleanor Roosevelt was an associate at the Coefficient Club, and Bertrand and H.G. Wells articulated their New World Order plans to elitists. It's all planned. Alright, Charles Edward Russell, Jewish socialist who worked for New York Life, controlled by J.P. Morgan, and also by the New York Tribune and Herald. Didn't I talk about all those banksters that have been dying lately in the last few months? And I keep reading the bank they work for, and a good portion of them, J.P. Morgan, J.P. Morgan, J.P. Morgan, J.P. Morgan. And they're talking about crashing the dollar and all that. So did they have to kill all these people who knew too much? James Russell, Columbia University professor who introduced Wong's Hegelian philosophy to his students at Columbia. So the Hegelian philosophy, I'll explain it to you briefly. You cause something and you blame it on somebody else so you can do something. So you fabricate 911, blame it on some Arabs with box cutters so you can invade the Middle East. That's one of their warfare tactics. You create Sandy Hook, Boston bombing. You say now we have to have terror laws in the United States. When you created it, these people. Matthew Russell, Jesuit writer. Lord John Russell, Committee of 300. Just talking about the Russell family here. Thomas Russell, 1767-1803. A revolutionist of the Illuminati stream of revolution. The Illuminati's business is fomenting revolutions, like they just did in the Ukraine, and they did in Egypt, and they did in Libya, Gaddafi. They're trying to do, they couldn't do in Syria. Assad had his power structure in place, and it's a stumbling block for the Illuminati to move forward with the New World Order plans. So maybe some people ought to be thanking Assad for delaying the New World Order for the rest of us by standing up to these people. So they're creating a lot of chaos and anarchy and craziness in the United States, maybe to distract us, because I know in the news they're marching forward and with the fabricated, or I should say created, mercenaries called Al-Qaeda and ISIS, paid for by the Rothschilds, Illuminati. High levels of the Masonic lodges, Zionism, Jesuits, Vatican, banksters, Hollywood, Kabbalah. Pay these mercenaries to go over there, pretend that they're Shiites or Sunnis, or do things in the Ukraine, shooting down planes. The Hegelian philosophy. Alright, so Russell, who founded fraternal societies, William Huntington Russell founded the Illuminati Skull and Bones Order, and they founded the Jehovah's Witnesses. Isn't that interesting? The Illuminati founded Jehovah's Witnesses and founded the Skull and Bones, founded all the Masonic lodges everywhere, all these secret things. Russell connected to fraternal organizations. Charles Taze Russell, Knights Templar Mason of the York Rite, Allegheny, Pennsylvania, founder of the Watchtower Society, the Jehovah's Witnesses. John's mother was the one chosen to dance with the famous Mason and Illuminati Lafayette when he was in Philadelphia. George William Russell, 1869-1935, leading member of the Dublin Theosophist Lodge. Again, lady who went and learned all the occult in India and brought it back to the world. They brought that into the lodges, and the one who followed Helenita was Alice Bailey. You can look these books up. And the publishing company was Lucifer Trust, who changed its name to Lucas Trust. I wonder if people are getting it yet, who watch the videos, and not just mine. There are plenty of other people out there telling you this stuff. I just have my own way of sharing it and where the information came from, showing you the books. The situation gets worse. William H. Russell, Mason and part owner of the Pony Express, which was a firm made up mainly of Masons. That was a big Rothschild's scheme in Europe. Remember I told you they delivered mail by carriages and horses? He owned all those mail courier services. So he could look in the mail of kings and queens and rich people and use that information for his financial gain. There's plenty of documentation that he made millions and maybe billions by this spying information. Now they got computers and they're monitoring everything everybody says. And if they want to put somebody out of business, they can probably intercept the emails, get the clients and customers with money, so the person that's in business, like me, would have a more difficult time making money. George William Russell, 1869-1835, leading member of the Dublin Theosophist Society Lodge, wrote art for the Theosophist Society, periodical, The Irish Theosophists, initiated into the lodge of ISIS, here we go, ISIS again, with its sexual rights. You don't believe me. I don't believe you. I blame you for not believing me. Stuff's right here in writing in a famous person's book. Go watch Fritz Springmeier's videos, buy his book. It's one of many books that'll give you the evidence you need to see what's going on in the world. The keynote for his work is from the Belgrad Gita, B-H-A-G-A-V-A-D, G-I-T-A. George was a member of the Golden Dawn. That was Aleister Crowley's organization, wasn't it? That he was a part of. Wickedest man alive, claimed he killed a lot of babies. And a good friend of the Golden Dawn leader, William Butler Yeats, who wrote some of the Golden Dawn's satanic Masonic rituals. It says it right here. Written by a guy much smarter than me. Benjamin Russell, 1761-1845, Mason and early American journalist, who was a member of the St. John's Lodge responsible for the Boston Tea Party. Charles H. Russell, Governor of Nevada, Mason, Shriner, and Knights Templar. J. Stuart Mason, newspaper editor, deputy chairman of the Federal Reserve Bank in Chicago. Russell connected to the IBSA, now called the Jehovah's Witnesses. Brother Russell, an early elder of the Belfast, Ireland IBSA congregation. Russell connected in some way to Mormonism. Elder Isaac Russell, a prominent early Mormon missionary into Great Britain in 1837. Jerome Russell Greyfair, burned in 1539 for heresy with John Kennedy in Glasgow, Scotland. So I guess a guy got burned with Russell, a guy named John Kennedy, not the John Kennedy we all know. Bloodlines. They can mean authority, such as royal lineages. They can mean power, occult wisdom, and powers generationally passed down in Satanists. Occult wisdom and power is generationally passed down in Satanists. So I guess one witchcraft will beget another witch. They can mean like-mindedness. Worldviews are learned to a great extent from our parents. Similar physical brains are genetically inherited. After thousands of hours of research on the power, one thing is blatantly clear. The power resides in the bloodlines that pass authority, occult power, and knowledge, and like-minded worldviews from generation to generation. Bloodlines have not ceased to be important. These are the people who think there are too many people on the earth right now. This earth would be a whole lot better off for them with a whole lot of us not here. Got it? Get it? When the astute observer begins to realize that an oligarchy is running the world, then there are lackeys in academia to tell us that we should not have been surprised. Robert Michaels concluded that elitism is a natural thing of society because society required organization, and all organizations are oligarchies, even socialist societies. I disagree. There have been pockets of places in the world that these people didn't take over, and they were doing just fine. They would like us to think that we need them, and their Lucifer worship, pedophilia, sacrificing people, and raping all the wealth and murdering people everywhere. The elites are actually unproductive parasites on society. I just said that. But this is not likely to be debated in today's population, which have been conditioned by the elites media to be sheep. Zombies is what I call them. Why would everybody volunteer, run down to get all these... Get out of here, spider. All these crazy demonic tattoos on their body? I'm not talking about somebody who wants to get a pretty flower or something. I think there's something more sinister about the whole thing. Mind control. Cartoons on TV, TV shows, glorifying it, Pirates of the Caribbean, stuff like that. It was debated by the U.S. Founding Fathers, who set up a semblance of an alternative to the oligarchy or a democracy. They established a republic. Remember we went over the book John Quincy Adams? He told us these people were the threat to the world. The power which controls the world is not the benevolent and wise group image that some of the masses have been conditioned by behavior modification to see them as. One of the things that the Illuminati has done is install apathy in people towards resisting their wickedness. I was talking to my neighbor about this stuff the other day, and he says, Rick, why do you put yourself out there? What do you care? Why don't you just worry about yourself? And I looked at him, I said, Richard, what if everybody thought that way? Because we know the people running our world see us as nothing more than an annoyance. Sheep, slaves, cattle, going, profane. It says it in their books. Those are their words. I looked up something on an article I wrote today, on a press release. Apparently in 1881, I think I said this earlier, Abraham Lincoln declared martial law. They had a war between the states, North and South. And apparently they never canceled the martial law proclamation, the rule of law. The people believe, and everybody went about their business thinking we were under constitutional law. It would explain a lot. So now, if they're under maritime law, martial law, the people in charge in the armies and the military during a war all have to work to sustain the government, and the government is now corporations. So they do not have to obey the Constitution if we're not under constitutional law. One of the ways you can recognize that is if you see a USA flag in a courtroom or when the president is speaking, and it has a gold fringe around it. That is giving you notice that you're under martial law, admiralty law. Concerning? Would they do it? Have they done it? Was the Constitution canceled back in Abraham Lincoln's time? And was it ever reinstated? I looked it up. If the material on the internet's right, 2.7 reviews, responses came up to my search on the internet. People, besides me, need to go look this up, and together we need to expose this information. One of the things that the Illuminati has done is install apathy in people towards resisting their wickedness. One is due to their belief in Mormon scripture, which they associate with the Mormon church. The leadership has usurped power and authority over this scripture. Thus, the members of the Mormon church think that God expects them to support their misguided leaders. And who are these leaders? Of course, they come from the Masonic lodges, the Illuminati. places like the Council of Foreign Relations, Heritage Foundation, Elite Families, Yale, Skull and Bones. We've got hundreds, thousands of these societies. We've gone over those books in my videos. Rationalize that it is unpatriotic to talk about the government and ungrateful to complain when they enjoy superficial prosperity. The government knows the more that they start choking the people and bring us closer to a depression like the 1930s, that the people will crack and they will riot in the streets. And then maybe that's why they're bringing about the Jade Helm thing right now, dispersing all these troops and weapons all over the USA. Maybe they're getting ready to put their new world order in place. All right, one more portion here, then I'll be finished with this for part of this for this video. President Bill Clinton. George Bush was a skull and bones man. Bush was head of the CIA and directed two secret units, the Special Situation Group, SSG, and the Crisis Pre-Planning Group, CPPG, which were covert operations that have done many illegal, nasty things behind the veil of national security. George Bush also is a descendant of the 13th top Illuminati family, the family that ties with the British royalty and the Merovingians. The man who recently beat George Bush in the presidential race, William Jefferson Bill Clinton, is a descendant of some Russells. Remember, Roosevelt said presidents are selected, not elected. They keep putting these elite royalty, Illuminati people in the president's seat, so they have a revolving dictatorship. And I learn all these little cliches by listening to other people and reading books. It is said Clinton is related to the Russells and is said to have more British royal blood than any other American president, as well as being a descendant of the tribe of Dan. As has been mentioned, the Russells are responsible for starting the Skull and Bones, the Pilgrim Society, the Watchtower Bible and Tract Society, the Masonic Daughters of Isabella, Archibald D. Russell, 1811-1871, a Mason from Scotland, set up still other organizations. Scotland plays a key role in the Illuminati. Government of the Federal Reserve Board and supporter of FDR, who is a member of the wealthy Mormon Illuminati Elsey's family, which came over from Scotland. The Russells played a key role in the opium trade in the early 1800s and early Mormonism. Delano was the grandfather of President Delano Franklin D. Roosevelt. The Russell and Company logo was a skull and bones. The Taft family, which is also related to George Bush by blood. Wasn't our president called Taft? And the Harriman family are two families which have been intimately connected to the Skull and Bones order, which is an entry point into the Illuminati. And on the surface, just as an exclusive fraternity, the Harriman family is a very prominent, was very prominent in President Bill Clinton's life. I'm going to stop there. Give him a little marker here. And continue on with the Russells, and continue on with the Mark Master Mason in the next video. So I guess I should do a brief press review, and I've got a couple of those. Well, if you've been watching this video and other videos, it's becoming a little clearer in writing here that the people who are ruling the world and have ruled the world are behind see my shirt's unbuttoned here. Are behind the chaos and anarchy we have been experiencing. World War I, World War II, the war between the states. Is there any doubt? Albert Pike was a general for the South. And then after the war, when he was put in prison, the president from the North of the United States of America pardoned Albert Pike because they were both Masons. Remember that. They create these events, these wars. Think of all the people in the South who had acquired a lot of property. It was a very romantic type of thing, you know, the mansions and cotton places and farming and horses. If you look at the movies. And so when they did have the war between the North and the South, it was a lot of devastation and death. And then they had the carpetbaggers after the war coming down from the North and laying claim to lots of things. And so, you know, basically it was a seizure of power and removing of people. How much was the Illuminati, which was created in 1776, the same year that the USA was created? And apparently they were involved in things, in orchestrating the events. What a sinister thing that these people have been planning and doing everything. Who paid the price? The citizens. After World War II, they moved all the major manufacturing to China. Who pays the price now? People died in the war to fight communism, and they move all the manufacturing jobs to China. And of the books I've been reading on the Freemasons, it's in their constitution. They can't mention Jesus. And in the New World Order with the gay agenda and all that, it's obvious an abrasional attack to the Christians. They know the Christians are going to say no because God said no. We know that the Zionist state of Israel, if you go in the J-Post, and I've got 2 big binders full of the printouts of the press releases and the people's comments, which I will put in one of my videos, and tell you what those people say with their own words over there in Israel about Christians and about Jesus. It's horrible. Horrible. So they are planning, it seems, a revolution in the United States. And anybody who's anti-gay agenda, coming from the United Nations, and anybody who doesn't cooperate with the gun confiscation, as per treaties that that they don't let the American people know about. And who knows, we might be under Admiralty law, martial law since Abraham Lincoln, if that stuff is true. And there is a gold fringe on the flag when you see these officials speak. Strange. So with that said, Marco Rubio, and I'm not a big fan of his. To be honest, I'm just a little concerned. I don't know if he's one of them or a real person, but they seem to be promoting him, which means he must be one of them. And again, some of these people will be trying to act like they're supporting the Christians, or trying to pretend they're supporting the gay agenda, the New Age, where you don't have to have a conscience and be responsible for your behavior, and you can do as thou wilt, as Aleister Crowley said. But anyways, Rubio says here, real and present danger that Christianity will be labeled hate speech. So here you are on May 26th, the other day. You're looking at the press releases on your alternate news sites, or this place is The Hill. I suspect that's in Washington, D.C., The Hill. Christianity is facing a real and present danger in the United States due to the growing acceptance of gay marriage, Republican presidential hopeful Senator Marco Rubio said. Now I know in 2008, when I had moved to Maine for a while, and I'm driving 2 days, and I'm listening to talk radio, 2008 now, that the announcer during the talk radio program said, well, gay marriage was shut down again. They did a polling, and it was 30% for and 70% against. And the men talking on the radio would say, well, I guess it'll never get there. But we've got press releases were relentless, TV show, Ellen DeGeneres, programming, cartoons, big marketing of something bad done to a gay person to get people's empathy. So in 2009, I'm running across the state from Florida to Maine, and they're talking about 40% are against, 60% or 40% are for gay marriage, and 60% say no, no, no. So I don't think it's ever going to get anywhere. And then 2010, it's 45%. They keep hammering in the news and hammering in the press and hammering on the TV, wearing out the people for the propaganda. So anyways, to get the story short here, apparently now it's at 51 or 52 for gay marriage and 48 against. And a press release came out and said, overwhelmingly approval for gay marriage. 52%. So every year, the billions and the stuff coming out of the United Nations, we've all seen it, the TV, the news, and so one person at a time. And they did the same thing with the lottery issue in Florida when they first tried to have the lottery tickets. They had a vote, overwhelmingly against. And I remember reading a press release, and the people who were trying to get the lottery going said we're just going to have to go year after year and year after year and educate the people and propagandize. We're going to use the money for schools. And if somebody wins, we're going to showcase them. And we're going to get the people one at a time to do our will. So it doesn't matter what the natural will of the people are. The mind control and the brainwashing is clearly evident, even to a low IQ person. Anybody can see it. Everybody knows it. But a lot of people are driven to apathy. They just don't care. And I suspect it may not bode well for us when we keep on giving up our rights and our culture to this new age, new world order. So Rubio here says we are on the water's edge of the argument that mainstream Christian teaching is hate speech. See what I keep saying? This is Marco Rubio. This isn't Rick Miracle. Because today, reached the point in our society where if you do not support same-sex marriage, you are labeled a homophobic hater, a Florida Republican told CBN News. Well, I'm here to tell you now, I've never really had any hatred towards gay people. And I think all this stuff is fabricated to be abrasive towards the Christians and the religious, as we're reading in the Freemasonic and Satanism book and the religion, and they're trying to build the temple in Jerusalem, King Solomon's temple. There's something much bigger, sinister going on. And it's all prophesized. Even etched in stone and other books and other things about history. Rubio said the next step is to argue that the teachings of mainstream Christianity, the Catechism of the Catholic, is hate speech, and that's a real and present danger. You think? Now, meanwhile, they're putting Jade Helm out, all the troops and equipment, and preparing for these military exercises of extracting dissidents from these towns in the USA. You're going to have to swear allegiance to Lucifer and take the mark of the beast. Or they're going to lop off your head. Which truck drivers have said they've delivered guillotines to military bases? If you look that up on the internet and see the YouTube, are these guys telling you the truth or are they lying? The comments are the latest in a series of remarks on gay marriage that have put the presidential contender in the media spotlight. Rubio said earlier this year and during an interview on CBN News that it's ridiculous and absurd to believe gay marriage is a constitutional right to same-sex marriage. Those remarks came ahead of the Supreme Court hearing oral arguments in the case that could lead to same-sex being able to marry in all 50 states. He added in his earlier interview that his stance was against same-sex marriage, is not a policy against anyone, Rubio's opposition to gay marriage puts him at odds with the majority of Americans. There you go, a majority of Americans. The new statistics says they have 52%. Ahead of the 2016 presidential, but is in line with the Republican Party. 58%, now this one says 58%, of the Americans support same-sex marriage. And I just wonder who did the study. According to a Quinnipiac University poll, and you know, did they go into gay communities and do the polling? This stuff is all rigged. We know that. They knew what they were going to do 20 years ago, and they knew what the resistance would happen thereabouts. They knew that they were going to crush Christianity. It goes back hundreds of years. This is the Masonic Bible, with all the evidence in it. Look on the front page. Look at the sun's rays and the Masonic symbols. Oh my. You don't think this stuff has some kind of spiritual, interdimensional, satanic relationship? Go look up Bohemian Grove. Alex Jones. See him sneak in there. See people, photographs of presidents, Nixon, Bush, Reagan, a lot of elites at the Bohemian Grove. Photographed there. You can see the pictures. Bohemian Grove images. You'll find them. Alex Jones video. They have a big gigantic owl and a burning fire in the belly. And they toss a baby into the fire, a sacrifice. The men are in long robes with screeching in the background. A satanic ritual. They ship in gay men. Sex is a huge part of satanic rituals. Alright. Some comments here. I know your tribulation and your poverty, but you are rich, and the slander of those who say they are Jews and are not, but are of the synagogue of Satan. Isn't that in Revelation 2.9? It's in the Bible, there's Satan. It's in the Masonic handbook, there's Satan. The Illuminati symbolism and all that is Satan. UFOs are spotted popping into existence, aliens, and glowing light orbs hovering over when crop circles are being made. There is something interdimensional going on here. Now, we went over videos on my serpent, the Palladians. I didn't go over those things, Sirius, the star system, the dog star. All this stuff that I've done, 100 videos from the beginning, hundreds of hours, is all connected. And I know people that don't know what to believe. I don't blame them. So this is why I do it with these book reviews and showing the books. And at some point, you know, you got to go, well, I got enough pieces of that puzzle. I can see what it is. We all have to think for ourselves. I'm not trying to preach to anybody. I've made my decisions. I believe these people are up to no good. And I can see it. Alan Greenspan. I've been doing this so long, I can quote all this stuff all day long. Said before Congress they were running a program called economic destruction. And the senator, you can look this up on YouTube and you can watch the hearings yourself. Alan Greenspan, economic destruction. Look them up, those words. And senator says, won't some people get hurt? And now we know years later with people losing their jobs, their cars, their homes, and poverty is getting to a greater extent running all across America. People are getting hurt by their program that they are running called Creative Economic Destruction. Alright, there is hate speech in your religion, and denying it is foolish. The point is you should recognize it exists and not run screaming that everyone is out to get you. Alright, another one here says, it's going to be funny when the crazies on the left get what they want. Then they will create a religious vacuum that the followers of Islam will happily fill. In the end, without the Christians, you will be a Muslim or be killed. Another person here, more likely the true Christians that refuse to convert will be killed. Everyone else that do not convert will be paying an extortion fee to Islam to tolerate them instead of killing them. Another comment here, like burning witches in the name of God. This other guy goes, what an asinine comment. Please try to stay on subject, because that other person said like burning witches. But apparently there's going to be a prosecution and a persecution to people who don't go with the new forced agenda of the United Nations. All right. One writer writes, Congress has heard from the American people, both from the left and the right. Allow the Patriot Act to die. This one writes, I think it's more the people who beat teenagers to death for being gay and those who show up with signs saying that youth deserved it in the name of God. I haven't seen any of that in my life. Not that there aren't some bullies out there that have probably beat up people just because they were standing there. They've always been bullies. There's this one guy says, tell me when a gay teenager has been beaten to death for being gay. That's what I'm saying. Here you are displaying exactly why people get frustrated with the Christians. These are not black and white issues. Just because your 2,000-year-old book has hateful speech does not mean that every person who reads it is the devil. Another one says, believing that homosexuality is wrong and bad for both the people involved and society is not hate. Calling it hating is just lying, and to try and influence more people to accept what you can believe. Calling it hating is the actions of a bigot. Somebody's trying to stir the pot. Let's just admit it. It's coming from the United Nations. They've spent tons of money on this issue. Does anybody deny that? Ireland just approved gay marriage. It's a worldwide push. It's an attack on Christianity, no matter how you want to cut it. It's to bring about this new religion of the Illuminati. They want to kill off a bunch of people. They need a worldwide revolution as an excuse to do it. That's my story. I'm sticking to it. We the people need to wake up. Rick Marrico reporting. Thank you for watching my video. Give me a thumbs up. Leave a comment if you have something decent to say. I don't mind people disagreeing with me. I make mistakes. And I'll be happy to admit them. We all need to wake up and see that the evil people behind the scenes have goals in mind. And the occult, Alice Bailey, book published by Lucifer Publishing Company, come on! How much clearer does it have to be?